Kamala call him Joe Biden. We elected Joe Biden, and he loads this thing up. Carter loaded us up. I mean, the Bushes loaded us up with some real moderates. And I did not know why. We always do this. We always, when we get in, we say, well, we're going to compromise. The Democrats never talk compromise when they're in the majority. They never talk compromise. And they're hollering at us saying, we're going to shut the government down. That's the responsible thing to do. Well, it's almost the exact same budget. It's actually the first reduction I've ever voted on in 7 years. That's the reason I voted for it. And now they're blaming us because we want to keep the government open, but before they were wanting to shut the government down. So it's a double standard, and it's wrong, but it's our fault. We deserve it actually, because we let these people in, and we want to play ball with them. We're going to play nice. Time for playing nice is over. There's a reason for elections. There's a reason Donald J. Trump, you all elected him overwhelming. It's not to sit by and compromise on our values.
That's right.
Yes, sir. I'll get to you, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yes, back in 2009, at the run-up to Obamacare, came up with an alternative that was pretty interesting that might replace all government health care. And I was wondering if I could send you the plan and...
I tell you what I'd rather do is have my person that handles that in my Washington office call you, and then you all get right together on it. Everybody always wants to talk to me. I got to talk to him. I got to talk to him, and then I have to call
No, I do understand.
some bureaucrat in Washington. But I've got somebody in my office that.
Back in 2009 and 2010, I tried to contact every single member of Congress.
But you never heard from any of them.
Never heard from any of them, except my congressman at the time, Bill Posey. I don't know.
I remember Bill.
Yeah. And he liked the plan, but never
Sir,
went anywhere.
you're making too much sense. You have no place in Washington.
But in
You'll give
the-
it to Thomas over there before we leave, and he'll.
Okay,
we'll
I
get
have his
somebody.
card.
Okay,
I have
great.
his card already.
We'll get
So
ready.
Thomas, can I just email you the?
Yeah, or shoot me a text and with your number, and I'll get the person.
You'll see a
Rutledge.
202
Okay.
number.
Yeah.
calling
Okay,
in.
great. So this is your text number as well? Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, we're pretty transparent. I was talking to a Fox guy the other day, and he said, I was walking in, he said, Burchett? And I said, yeah, and he's, what's his name, Chip Peregrine, I don't know, anyway. He's always in your face kind of guy, the one at Fox, he's a little, like that, and I like him, he's straight up. And he said, one of the members said that you're just out here for the cameras, you want to talk to cameras, and I said, did they say it's off the record? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah. I said, that's just like a guy, you grow up with those kids that throw a rock over the fence and run home behind their mama's skirt. I said, if they want to talk, put his name on the thing. And I said, the people back home like the fact that I do my videos and I talk to the press because you know what's going on. I can't tell you how many times I've walked out of a committee and, it's important to somebody back home, but it's not national, it's not real sexy. Nobody's screaming or anything. We're just dealing with something like AI or something, artificial intelligence, and or Bitcoin or something that, there's a very specific segment of society that deals with that, and they want to know about it, but the national news isn't covering it, again, because there's nobody screaming at anybody. We're just trying to get to an answer. And it turns out that now you look at all the old timers and they're doing videos like I do. Now they have what they call Twitter teams. They hire somebody specifically to do what I do every day. And I say dadgummit a lot and all that, but I got a swear jar full of IOUs back home. I got a 17-year-old, so I don't curse. I just say dadgummit when I want to curse. So you can insert your curse word there when you hear me say that. Anybody else?
I think this, yeah, woman had a-
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I was getting back to you. I'm sorry, dear.
Now, my blood just boils every time DOGE comes up with another list of these crazy people and
Yep.
their abuses.
Waste, abuse, and fraud.
Well, I want a list of people who are going to prison. I want a list, and I don't
Well, you got a
want.
pencil? I'll give you one right now. I'm just kidding. But I agree with you, ma'am, because it's not retribution, it's about justice. And when you steal our hard-earned dollars, they need to go to jail.
I don't want, obviously, some of these people are not embarrassed, You
they're
know, some
arrogant,
of
they're
them,
emboldened almost. I mean, you
You know,
saw that
some
when the
of these
president spoke, they
people-
wouldn't even stand up for that poor little kid who had cancer. I mean, what world are we living in? And, you know, they care more about, these are the same people that are gonna lecture you on not caring, yet they permit little boys to have their sexual organs cut off.
we are
and want you
almost
to pay
living
for
in
it.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, it's
And
pretty
they've
close.
they've helped put us there. But I don't want them going to some plush, resort prison. You know,
I just wanna see them in handcuffs is what I like to see
Yeah,
first, man.
I want them in jail for a long time, you know, throw the keys away.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. I think we have a Justice Department now that does. I mean, you gotta realize, when they went into Trump's house, I mean, they went through his wife's underwear drawer. They knew they knew exactly where those files were. They were kept in a room, in a room off to the side, and they even they've gone back, I can't tell you how far they've gone back to find presidents who kept stuff like that. It's just it's a constant thing.
But they didn't touch Crazy Joe.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll tell you this, I have, due to some of my committee work, and I'm not allowed to talk about what I was viewing, but I've gone in the room where the guy's got the handcuffed, he's got the file there, and he's an agent of one of the agencies, and you know, he's got the attaché case, and it's attached to his hand, and they have to show it to you, and they watch you look at it. That's, if it's that secret, that's the way it's done. A lot of this stuff is just, but, you know, that was just a show of abuse. Was it Roger Stone? He was Trump's advisor. Was it Roger Stone? That's the movie guy. What's the other one? There's a Stone that's a movie guy. Oliver Stone. It's not Oliver, it's Roger Stone. Yeah. So forgive me if you're watching this, Roger. He's actually a friend of mine. I've been on it. But, you know, here's a guy, 80 years old. They arrest him, or probably in his late 70s. They handcuff him in his underwear, make him stand outside his house for like 4 hours while they do this. They had TV crews there and everything. They wouldn't even let him call his attorney. You know, that's the kind of thing our Justice Department came to.
And his wife, who was hard of hearing, was inside.
Yes, ma'am, I know. I've talked to him about it many times.
Terrible.
And it was just, and they did that time and time again. Somebody had the audacity of protesting an abortion clinic. And they did the same deal on him, rolled up with all their armored gear. And I don't blame the officers, but I blame their bosses. Because at some point, somebody's got to say, hey, this isn't right. You fire me. I'll go to court on this one. And it's just too much. So somebody else. Yes, ma'am.
Representative, if,
It's 10, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
You came in a little late. I just want you to know, did you know what time this thing started?
I apologize.
Time check.
Apology accepted.
Time change was last week.
I got here just before you did. Go ahead.
Tim, my name's Addie, I'm one of your constituents. If DOGE decides to cut any part of Social Security, will you make a promise to your constituents
Well,
that
I
you'll
just
vote
gave
against
that part, yes, ma'am. Unless it's the delivery system, remember now, if they find waste, abuse, and fraud. Elon told us about people, there's one person in Peru that was getting funds. We have those people that are excess of 100 years. We have one person, there's a check going to, that is older than our country.
Well, we have discovered, right, that that's because of Elon's folks not being able to read code.
No, ma'am, that's not, you're wrong. They have discovered some fraud and abuse.
I'm
And-
sure that they, discovered
Yeah,
some
but
fraud.
if they cut any of the real services, yeah. And there's no bill out there to do any of that, ma'am. That is a fraud. That is what the Democrats are putting out. That is what, they're trying to do to scare people, and it's wrong.
They want to scare the seniors. I mean,
That's
look
all
at
they
this
want to
room
do.
full of people.
Who do they
We're
scare?
about
They
all
always
seniors,
scare
and
veterans
that's
and
their
seniors.
Yeah, I know a
Because
lot
we're
of
the biggest
seniors who
group
are
of voters.
very scared,
And
which
there's,
is why
well,
I wanted to see it.
and the Democrats are they're succeeding, unfortunately, because we're not standing up calling them liars, because that's what they are. And they're the worst form of liars, because they know it, and they're doing it to abuse old folks, and that is what people that built this country. And I find that very distasteful, and I hope everyone calls them out when they do that, because this last budget bill, I mean, I heard Schumer say it was his bill. It was him and Pelosi's spending policy, except for the money they switched over. They cut, it was actually a cut, the IRS, about 20 million, ended up being overall about $20 billion, about an $8 billion cut, which isn't a lot, but it's in the right direction. So there was no cuts in there, and that is a positive.
So-
Go back and look at the history of Medicare, Social Security, and all that. All of the cuts and all of the taxation for that has come from the Democrats.
Well, actually, George W. Bush took $3 trillion out for the war in Iraq and never paid it back. I mean,
And that
it's,
was that voted on by Congress too, though, both parties, so, he can't allocate, yes, sir.
Is there any plans for the cryptocurrency reserve? I know that was something that was mentioned and talked about. Is that still?
That's been talked about, but as I stated, you gotta, let's just be honest about Congress. It's primarily a bunch of old white dudes that probably still listen to 8-track tape players. And that's what I worry about, them regulating cryptocurrency. I'm a capitalist, and if it's out there, let them roll the dice on it. And it's just like the stock market. It looks to me like it's a Ponzi scheme, but it seems to be holding up pretty well. And the one difference between Bitcoin and the rest of them, they don't print any more Bitcoin. It's just it's not an infinite amount like Doge coins, not Doge committee, but all these other coins.
Ethereum.
Yeah. So, and I don't understand it enough, and I've been briefed on it. I can't tell you how many times. And then I think I understand it. It's kind of like mercury, which you should never hold in your hands, but if you do it just flows right. You just try to squeeze it, and it just goes everywhere, and you can't ever catch it. So I don't really understand it. So maybe that's a good thing. Any more?
I have a question, Tim.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a nephew that's just been deployed to Romania,
Right.
and I've asked my brother why he's being deployed to Romania.
Yep.
Why are we sending troops into Romania?
We have troops in I believe it's over 20 countries right now, and I made this statement that I doubt most members of Congress could find every spot on the globe where, if you told them the name of it. We have too many interests. When our military men, you take an oath to what? Uphold what? Constitution, correct? And nothing to do with Romania, has to do with our Constitution. And they'll try to say trade and things like that, but generally it's just if our presence is there, it keeps the peace. But I'd rather our presence be at home. I think the United Nations is a Cold War dinosaur. We send our money to these countries. I mean, when you have Syrians openly killing Christians, I've watched the videos and they're horrendous. How they bring the civilians out and they light them up. It's just as bad as when they came across Gaza and pulled those Jewish civilians in, and their little girls. It was just, the video was brutal, and I hope none of y'all ever get to see it, because I can't unsee it. Literally, I was in the room and people were openly weeping and getting physically sick watching this stuff. And here we are, we're getting ourselves involved in other wars in other countries. And, you know, and Biden, he said we didn't have $4 billion to build the wall, but we gave $250 billion unchecked to Ukraine. And Zelensky, by his own volition, said we don't know where over $100 billion of it went. So, yeah, and there again, the war piece at the Pentagon and the people that invest. We're investing in military arms systems right now that when they come off the line will be mothballed. They will be outdated, they won't be used, but we don't have the guts to cut the programs because, we're against the military, or where it's in and the real case is they're in some powerful legislator's district. The Pentagon right now, if you can believe this, has not passed 8 of their last audits. They're so arrogant, they haven't even completed them. You know how we punished them the last time? The National Defense Authorization Act, we gave them $8 billion new dollars. Folks, they cannot count for $500 billion right now. That is a battleship. We haven't built a battleship. That is an aircraft carrier. And we're online for 3 more of these. They're kind of in the pipeline. And the military people will tell you, aircraft carriers are out. It's gonna be drone technology, and we need to move away from manned flights, because they just put up 50 or 100 of those kamikaze drones, and there's $500 billion, some of our aircraft are gonna go right through that, and we're gonna lose aircraft, and we're gonna lose men and women, and we need to rethink our military. We're still gonna need boots on the ground, but it's not the Japanese are not gonna bomb Pearl Harbor, And 6 months later, our industrial might, we're gonna roll across the Pacific. It's just not that way. Warfare is not that way anymore. And that antiquated way of putting our troops in these foreign countries that hate our guts, and with the United Nations that takes our money, we're one of the majority funders of it, and they hate our guts and do everything they can to hamstring us, is a mistake. They can do it without us. Sorry, went to preaching again. Yes, sir.
In your opinion, should the United States be in the United Nations? I don't think so.
No, I don't, because we're not getting anything from it except we're funding our enemies. And then on the Security Council, you know, and they put people like China and some of these radical Middle Eastern countries that hate our guts. No, and they're the ones doing the abusing. I would rather that money go at home. We can feed people, we can clothe people, we can educate people. And this, you know, the State Department needs to project two things really of Americanism: capitalism and democracy. Get out of the LGBTQ agenda stuff. It's not our business. Yes, ma'am.
I live over in Clark County, and FEMA has been a disaster over there.
Yes, ma'am.
Even people's checks have been mailed and they've been cashed all over the country.
All over the world.
All over
Yes,
the
ma'am.
world.
Well,
Yes.
you know, Biden pushed that bill through, 100 million, excuse me, for the people in Upper East Tennessee and North Carolina. I voted against it because it would either be, I thought it'd be misdirected or stolen. Well, it was done both. You saw the first $54 million went to New York to house illegals in high rent apartments. And you ought to send, FEMA ought to be shut down. If anything, the money ought to flow to groups that we know, like Samaritan's Purse, for instance. Billy Graham's son. There's a Mountain Strong up here. They have 2 employees or something, but they deliver funds and everything. When you have some arrogant jerk sitting in a Walmart parking lot telling somebody they don't qualify for the $700 because they don't have a dadgum ID because everything got washed away. You know, we've got to get past these bureaucrats and quit listening to turn that dadgum national news off. They're lying to you. They're stealing your dadgum money. And they weren't going to do anything up there until Trump rolled up there and told the Army Corps of Engineers the next day they were back there and they were cleaning the streams, they were cleaning the roads. There were still people living in tents. I mean, this is the United States of America, and these are veterans, these are working people. They're yeah. And when it turned cold, that's just disgusting to me. And it ticked Trump off. I can tell you how ticked off he was. Yes, sir.
Circling back around to the United Nations point, isn't it wise to stay in things like the Security Council where the United States has a
Veto power?
Yeah, veto
Yeah.
power. That way we can sort of check the radicals that cycle through there.
Yeah, but that sounds good on paper, but we haven't been able to do it because they just go around us. You're talking about honor among unhonorable people that are dishonorable, excuse me, and that's the problem. And they feed off of our dollars, and I think it's time for them to start going alone. And if they want to mess with us, we got somebody in the White House that's not going to check with them. I can tell you that. Yes, sir. Again, follow up, triple follow up back there. You're like
back to
CNN.
FEMA.
Go ahead.
The FEMA money. Did Congress approve using FEMA money to house the illegals?
No, sir. No,
So
sir.
those people are to go to jail.
They should, but here's the problem. You have unelected bureaucrats making decisions, same in the environmental deal and everything else. And that's quite a problem.
And that's billions of taxpayer money
Yes, sir.
that was stolen and used to house ill people that shouldn't even be here.
Yes, sir. Well, the question be if it's legal or not, because they did it. And that's the problem. You're not gonna get that money back. And we just
Yeah,
need to
I know
shut it
that.
down. We need to send some people to jail if they did do something illegal, if they stole it, if they gave it to their family or something. That's what I worry about, is it goes back to Washington DC Congress members, both parties, and you see them up there. And the interesting thing is, they send all the young ones to the DOGE committee and stuff. None of the old timers are there, because they're doing their dirty work, and they know, they're idealistic, and they honestly think that, they're standing for the right cause. They haven't quite been even though they're wild-eyed radicals. They're good friends of mine. I don't think they're crooked. They just don't like what we like, and they got a right to do that because they're elected to do it. But you don't see any of the old timers there. They're sacrificial lambs, and they know it. Because they don't care about the country, all they care about is staying in office. Yes, ma'am.
So, talking about unelected bureaucrats, and things that aren't approved by Congress, isn't that exactly what Elon Musk and DOGE is doing right now?
They work for the liberty of the president, so they're allowed to do that, ma'am.
But they're unelected, which I know was part of the issue with the concern.
Well, when they
about
violate the
making
law, then we'll have
decisions.
a problem, but they're not, but to me, they're not violating the law. I think.
A judge on Friday just said that they.
I think your problem,
violated
ma'am,
the
is
law.
with the system. And
Probably what?
I think your problem is with the system, is with the fact that, I mean, I can't see anybody in here would support the billions of dollars that's being stolen and that they're uncovering. And I don't have a problem with any of that. Any of the
I'm
people-
wanting going
When
through
you got
stuff.
no-show jobs, people have not been back to work since COVID. People have moved and are angry that they're losing their jobs because they have to move back into the area where they were supposed to be working in the first place and working from home. They're finding billions upon billions of dollars being stolen. And they're gonna make some mistakes, everybody does, but by far, they're doing an excellent job. And I'm glad we've got DOGE, I'm glad we got Donald Trump in the White House with some guys to do something.
I'd like you to convey to President Trump how much I appreciate the transparency. He's on TV every day telling us what he's gonna do.
Yeah, no, Joe Biden couldn't, that was.
You can go to Truth
I
Social
was on
anytime
CNN,
and
yeah.
find out what he's up to. I
I was on-
love it.
I was on CNN the other day, and I was being interviewed by a guy. I didn't know it, or I'd have brought it up to him. He's actually writing a book on how Biden was inept and all this. And I was banned from a couple of those networks for saying that early on. I said, I don't think this guy can pour water out of the boot. And yet, it was carrying the flag for the Democratic Party. And now we're seeing that a lot of this stuff that was done towards the end was done with his auto pen, which is supposed to be just for autographs. And these are the same people that told you that the dossier was true and Hunter Biden's computer was false.
Right.
And Trump was right to kick every one of those security experts out. Because when they're out of Congress, you still have your classification and can view those things, those top secret things. And you're a dadgum lobbyist. That is wrong. That is completely wrong. They want it, and that is the swamp. It's not a swamp. A swamp is something pretty cool. God created, it's a good little ecosystem that filters water. It's got animals and everything around it. Washington D.C. is a sewer. It needs to be cleaned out. And that's why people are
You
pitching
make
us
sure
in.
and tell him we appreciate him.
Thank y'all. I will. And thank y'all so much. I've got to roll. See y'all. My turn to stand. Thanks, Tim. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
Good to see you. Hey, hold on. We got a lot of folks in here. Thank you so much. We real appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Addie. Addie, nice to meet you.